Yeah, hey, hello everybody. Come on. Yes, I was busy with my closes, but wow, I'm going to give a talk about something very different than about this. You think it is different, but it has some relation with it. I start with micro frontends, of course, and I also, let's go further. Does it work? Yeah. My content of my talk is about the front end. I started with the front end monolith, and I step over to the micro front ends. And I show you also an example app, and how you create such a thing, and also how do you set up communication between micro front ends. So what do you think? Where is this head coming from? This is a very big head, and it is not in Europe, of course. But where do you think? Which country? Poland? Oh, India. Nearby. Nearby India. That's a good one, but not the right country. No. It is from a monk. Where? Which monk? From which country? Tibet, yes. The Tibet monk. A long time ago, I cycled from Holland. This stretch, I cycled 10,000 kilometers with my bike to Nepal, Tibet. And yeah, it was very exciting. I write a book, still writing a book about it, not finishing it. But I can tell some story, some little part of the story. At the end of the trip, you see I'm cycling here. In the end of the trip, I stepped off my bike and I met some friends, and we went to the Bardia Park, where we want to see some wild animals. So you see also the guide. He has he's not a gun with him, only a little stick. And I saw suddenly a silhouette of a rhino. So everybody was looking at it, and the guide said, yelled to us, you have to climb into the tree. So everybody took his own tree. And I climbed onto the tree, and one tree, and on a branch I was standing as high as the nose of the rhino, of the horn of the rhino. You feel it, eh? Okay. Here he is, the rhino, a little one with her. And she was staring with her eyes, ears, and like a radar. And the guide was yelling, "Wow, fantastic!" And I said to him, "Oh, silent." And the rhino was a little bit getting nervous, and suddenly going to walk very fast. You see, he was walking very fast. You have to go further. Yeah, there he is. Unbelievable fast he goes. And he went to my tree. I didn't make a noise. So how fast can an Indian rhinoceros run, do you think? Who thinks A? B? Okay. And C? Most of them. Okay, you know it already. You already have the same experience as me. So it was 50 kilometers an hour. That's unbelievable fast. Eh? So we stood under my branch, you see. Eh? It was not so cute as you see here. It was very dangerous. Eh? I was standing there on the tree, and in that split second, it took a long time to recognize my problem and to, what shall I do? So I'm Eijgermans from Ordina, and I work for JS Roots, which is a department within Ordina which is specialized in front-end. And I'm also codesmith and international speaker. And I want to go further. With the application, you know it already, is a big ball of mud, and the rhinoceros is also a monolith. And we don't want to do such applications anymore, most of the time. So we stepped over to these layers, but when you change one layer, the backend layer or the frontend layer, you have also has to change some other layers. There's a big problem also. So we split it up our backend. You know the whole story in microservices, and every microservice has its own database. But we still have a front-end monolith. We have still a Rhino in our application, which is very complex. So we want to split up our front end also like microservices. So the micro front ends are born. And the concept is, of course, extend the concepts of the microservices to the front end. So here you see that micro front ends are as like verticals. And verticals is, consists of a front end and a back end. And every team is responsible for their own front end and back end. Every team works independently of each other. This is what we want. Every micro front end is focused on one big business domain, so we can work independently of each other, each team. Microservices and micro front ends communicate with each other via events. I will show you some little example how that works, mainly in the front end. So why micro front ends? It is you can independently upgrade your application. You can with little parts. It's easy to upgrade, and also every micro front end has its own pipeline and to release and to test. And that is also a good part. And this the code base is more simpler than a monolith, of course, for every micro front end. And technically, you can use your framework what you want in the front end and the back end. Each team can choose that, and every team works independent of each other. So I made this example app where you can book a outdoor event. And you can also book the event to meet the rhino. And this is the main application of the main and it consists of a container. That's the main entry point of the application, which is responsible for authentication, authorization, also for routing. And also consists in this example of a search event, micro front end, and also a list of outdoor events, micro front end. And then we also have the detail page, which consists in this example of the container, of course, and it consists of only this micro front end, the book event. Defining micro frontends, where you start with micro frontends, you also have to decide how to start with it. How should we define our micro frontends? Should we horizontally or vertically split our application? That means horizontally split. That means that multiple teams are working on, you can say, one view, one vertical. And our vertical split is that one team owns its own vertical, its own view, you can say, in this example. This is the best thing, the vertical split, because it is comparable with the vertical slices I started with. And the teams can work more independent of each other. Micro frontend is not the same as a component, of course. Micro frontend is a micro app, you can say. It runs on its own and can run remotely, distributed way. You can also run it locally, of course, no problem. It can consist of multiple components, of course, a micro frontend. And can be developed independently. You have some integration built. How do you build your application? Integration techniques. I'm mainly focusing this talk about runtime integration, where you bundle application at runtime. But you have also the first part of the built-in integration, where you build your application out of multiple NPM modules. And you have also server-side integration, where you build and bundle your application, or you bundle your micro frontends at server-side. So it is about bundling your micro frontends so that the user has one user-facing application in production. You see here the built-in integration, where you would for you on the left side, you see that I bundle all my NPM packages together at build time, and I do that with a package JSON. And also in the middle you have a server-side integration, where you bundle your micro frontends at server-side out of multiple templates, and you have runtime integration, where you bundle your front end at runtime in the front. At your built-in integration, you can also use monorepo. Monorepo is nothing more than one repo, which consists of, in this example, multiple micro frontends. You can easily share your code, and code formatting and styling is you can also use some frameworks like Angular workspaces, for example, or other frameworks. You mainly bundle your at build time. You bundle application at package JSON level, so it will looks like this. You can recognize this, I think. You have your container application, and you have a lot of three dependencies, and you bundle it together. So this is a little bit the simple way of explaining how built-in integration works, how you bundle it. I'm still standing on that tree, Don't forget that, because I was the evening before I was reading a book about how could I survive a rhino. So I was reading that I have to run, jump off the tree, and run zigzag away, because he cannot see very well. So you can, then you have a chance, but he can walk very fast. So perhaps you do. Is not a good decision. So I was thinking about the second option, to jump to the other tree, all in a split second. And also I want to survive that. And I have also another option to. There was some grass also. You can lay down in the grass, and he cannot see you very well, and he can only a little bit sniff you, and then hoping that he will not stand on you. But still, it is, what shall I do? I don't know. Server-side integration, where you integrate your application at server-side out of multiple templates, and then finally you have also the runtime integration, where you bundle application at front end. You can also use a lot of techniques for this. iframe, YouTube uses this still. It's an old technique, but not very flexible anymore. And you can also use web components. I've already done some talks about that. So it's on YouTube, you can find it. And you can also use some tooling. And I fell in love with the right one. That's the Webpack Module Federation, where you can bundle the application, all your microfronts, you can bundle it at runtime. So I skipped the web components part, because you can find it on YouTube, my talks about it. Module Federation, that is a beautiful technique. I will explain it, what it is. Webpack Module Federation, what is it? You can bundle the application remotely, this in a distributed way at runtime. And you can also load it locally if you want, but every team can work independent of each other remotely, and you can sharing libraries, And also when you have problems with version conflicts with dependencies, you can also solve that with webpack multivariation. I show you later. And also you can lazy load your module, so you can also only load your module when you needed it. So how does it work? You have webpack multivariation. You have to define two roles. You have the host, or I call it the container in this talk, or the shell, and the host, the container, consists of a remote part in the configuration where you configure your micro frontend mappings, URLs. And on the right side, you see the micro frontends, and there you expose your micro frontend, or you expose your components within, which is running within your micro frontend. Can be multiple components. You see that the name is also very important here for the micro frontend because we use it in the mapping in the container. And this is quite simple. This is how the configuration globally works. When you want to share, you have also a sharing part, the shared library part, and I want to use React, for example. It can also be Angular or Vue. And you have to define here, if it is a singleton, what you want to load, one instance, what is the required version, and also if you want to see a strict version true, that means that you want to see errors when you have version conflicts. So in this example, you have a version conflict because my remote micro frontend is running on version React version 17. So only version 18 is loaded. That's good. So the bundle size is not so big then. How do we solve the version mismatch when you have that? You have one rule, take the highest compatible version. How does that work? You receive two versions. If the host version is 18 or 17, then it will only load version 18 because 17 is not compatible. When you have two compatible versions, 18 and 18.1, for example, then only 18.1 is loaded because singleton is true. When you do singleton is false, they have another issue. When you have 18 and 17.2 running, then both are loaded. And then the bundle size is quite big. There will be loaded twice. React will load it for the host application and will be loaded for the micro frontend, which is running on this version. And okay, you have also the other part, the last one, where we take the highest compatible version. You see the application I've created. It's now created with React in the front end, and it has three micro front ends, remotes. I've told you already. And then shared part can be everything. Can be React, can also be Lodash or other frameworks. Can also be Angular. How do you create such a micro front end? Firstly, you can generate it with a very simple command, npx create micro frontend app. And secondly, you can create your individual micro frontend with the same command. And then you have to change your configuration, step 3. I've done it already for you. Have you seen it? I have the remote part and the exposure part. You have to implement, that is the most work of it. You have to implement your components, of course, in your micro frontends. And finally, you have to implement the routing. This is the command you can use. And when you run that, you can generate your container. And here you see it is running on port 3000, and you can choose a lot of frameworks. Vue, Angular, Svelte. So this is quite good. So it will generate a scaffold. for you. Here, the microfrontends itself, you can also generate that. Here is an example of the outdoor events, which is running on port 3002, another port. And you have your micro frontend example I've created, and it consists of the book events container and also the outdoor events micro frontend. Also a layout I've generated for the header and the footer. Step 3 for this to make this work, this application. You have to configure your application. I've already showed you this slide. Where you have to define your remotes, and also in the micro frontend, you exposes your micro frontend and also your components. You have to implement your components. Here I loop through the outdoor events. I hope it's big enough. And per outdoor event, I created a card and I show a image and also a link to the micro frontend. There's nothing more than a URL and a slug. A slug is in my example, for example, Rhino Park. And you have here to implement your routing via. You can do that in React now. It's not so difficult. And here you can also download my example app, which is created in React. I also created a multi-framework application where you can use Angular and React together. That is also possible. Multi-framework, I should not use it because you have to load Angular and React in this example. So the bundle size is quite big then. When you use this, you have to use this. You can do this when you have to deal with a legacy system. And when you want to step over from, for example, Angular.js, an old Angular framework, to Angular 2 or 3 nowadays. And after merging companies, you see, and I can also download my multi-framework example. Communication between micro frontends. You can do that via routing. I do that already in my application, my simple application. You can also do that via local storage. Local storage is nothing more than a storage in your browser where you can store some data. And but the disadvantage is that for local storage and async storage, what is it? Local storage is used in your for normal desktop applications, and async storage is used in mobile applications. You can store the data in your browser and use it from one micro frontend to the other. You can use that, but the data is not. You cannot notify. You're not notified when data is placed into the local storage. So you cannot subscribe to it. But when you have one micro frontend running on one page and one micro frontend running on the other page, and when you go from one page to the other, during mounting of the other micro frontend, you can read the local storage. So that could be a solution. A better example is the custom event that you talk between micro frontends with events. It is a very simple technique I show you. And you have also the pub/sub pattern where you can place data on a topic, and a client can subscribe to the topic. And you can also use shared state. How do I implement the routing in my application? I use this the browser router from React, and I can use here all those URLs. I have to define my URLs, which I use in my application to go from one micro frontend to the other. I've also added something to my application. I've added a shopping cart in the right corner, where you can add something to the cart, of course. How do you do that with local storage? With local storage, you can here define a storage with a getter and a setter, quite simple. and you place something with on the storage with storage set item. You increment the counter of the shopping cart. And in the other micro frontend 2, you can listen to it. You can get the data with get item. You can also use custom events. So here you use the dispatch event. You can dispatch in the custom event, and I dispatch here the event with the name add to cart, with also a counter in the payload. This new custom event, I can also listen to it with the add event listener to that event. So you can also count it up. I also can use the pub sub pattern, which is a little bit a message bus where you can publish data on a topic and also subscribe to it. And finally, you can also use a shared library like Redux, for example, or NGRX. Perhaps you've heard of it. But the disadvantage is that that all those microfrontends are now tightly coupled together via the global storage. That's not always what you want, but the advantage is that you can communicate quite easily with each other via the global storage. Shared state with Redux, how do you define it in your configuration? You can, in the shared part, you can define, for example, the Redux and the singleton true, and what kind of version you want to use. When you define it in your container, you can use such a global state in your whole application. Okay, and I'm going to show you something about the shopping cart. And I added here a button, add to cart. And also I send a custom event, add to cart, to my layout micro frontend. And the layout micro front has a component, header component, which contains the shopping cart. Let's go to the application. Here you see the application I've generated. Here we have the container. Let's go to the configuration. You recognize this, I think. You see it? Yeah. A little bit bigger, perhaps. Yeah. Right. Here the remotes part I define in my container. And those are all my micro frontends, the layout, outward events, and the book event. And also here, let's see, in the app, I've also here created another main component in my container micro frontend, where I defined my routing. And you see also here that I import a lot of micro frontends at the top. So that is, firstly, I've also to create, of course, my micro frontends. So I have here a simple micro frontend. This is the layout. This is consists of a footer and a header, which is not so special. And in the header, I'm going to place the shopping cart and also how to communicate from one micro frontend to the other to counter up my shopping cart. So I'm talking about this. Let's see. Okay, and you can also book an event, of course, and you can also add to cart. You can see that the counter is going up. How do I implement that? I will show you later. Here, this micro frontend has also a Webpack configuration, which is not so special, but this has a name layout, and it exposes two components, the header and the footer. And also a shared part where the shared library is React. So this is how I configure it. Let's see how the outer events is the last thing I want to show you, and then I show you an example how I created my shopping cart. The outer events, You see here, I showed you one slide about it already. I loop here through the outer events, which is taken from the backend. I got some outer events, and I loop here with a .map. I loop here through the events. I have also a card here where I show my image of the event. Can be the Rhino, of course, and also a link to book an event. So here I have a book event link. So I'm going to create a communication channel with custom events from the outdoor events. Oh, it's a little bit from the to the header component. How do I do that? Let's see. Here I added at the top, in the header, in the outer event, sorry, I added a button with an on-click event. And it has a connection with a function which is named increment. Oh, it's a little bit going too fast. Okay, let's do it again. On-click event with the increment name. So here is the function increment, and I define here a custom event with an add to cart event, and it has also a payload action increment, and here I dispatches my event, which I created here. And in the outer events, in the header, sorry, I created my shopping cart. Here an image of the shopping cart and also a counter. We've shown you already. For the counter, I created a state variable with useState. This is a pure state hook from React. And I define here also a useEffect hook, which is connected to the counter. And in the useEffect hook, I can listen to the events with a event listener. This document.add_event_listener I do here, and I listen to the add to cart event. And I also, when that event comes in, it will fire the handle custom event, and it will listen to the action increment. When that is true, I fire the handle increment function, which will increment my counter with the setCount function, which I've defined here. And this function will count up this counter, and it will show here. So this is how you can easily communicate with each other with between microfrontends with an event. API gateway and backend for frontend. This is a little bit more high level. You have API gateway. That is what is that? That is standing in the middle of frontend and backend. It is responsible for authentication, authorization, load balancing, and it also is responsible for routing your request from the frontend to the backend, and for aggregating responses to the frontend. And we have also backend for frontend. That is part of the API gateway, which is responsible for creating sophisticated APIs for the frontend. An example of backend for frontend is GraphQL, of course. It's a very well-known one. Clients can easily define what they want, what kind of data they want from the backend with GraphQL. And how can this application easily communicate between micro frontends and between the backend? For example, Team A can communicate with Team C with the custom event. That is, you have showed it already. I've showed it already. And Team C want to grab some data also from Team E, but then via the GraphQL. We want some data from the backend. So you can ask GraphQL to grab some data from E. So you can communicate in a global way with between all those micro frontends. How do I survive the rhino? Somebody knows it was a really dangerous situation. I was thinking to jump off the tree. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think, is it A, what I've chosen? We think which is A. B, I run away zigzag. Why not? Okay. Is this a little bit too dangerous, you think? Okay. And a tiger comes by? Nobody. It is really true. I've seen the tiger that day also. So I could also, this is the next story, another event. And my friend took a photo of the rhino. Really? Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yes, my friend took a photo from another tree and he didn't see that I was in danger. And he was such an old camera. And the camera has such a loud click that the rhino runs away. And he feels himself so tiny as a micro, and he feels himself so agile, and he ran away as fast as possible. He wanted to free himself. Here he's running away. So, this was my talk. Thank you very much.